So one day when Jesus was with his disciples, he decided it was time to head back up into the northern part of Israel. Normally, Jewish people would take this route around the area of Samaria, but Jesus instead decided, no, we're going to go right through Samaria. And as they were walking, it got to be about noon, middle of the day, and they stopped near a town called Sychar. And Jesus sent his disciples into the town to go find some food while he waited outside by the well that was there. And while he was waiting, there came a woman from the town in the middle of the day to draw water from the well. That was a little odd. Normally, they wouldn't come when it was that hot out. But Jesus waited until she got close to him, and then he asked her, "Will you give me some water?" She looked at him, and she was a little confused, and she said, "Why are you, a Jewish man, talking to me, a Samaritan woman? That's not something that people do." And Jesus said to her, "Well, if you knew who it was that was asking you for water, you would actually ask him for water, and he would give you water instead." She looked around and she said, "You don't even have a bucket to draw water from the well. How are you going to do that? Are you greater than our father Jacob who built the well?" And Jesus looked at her and said, "Actually, if you asked me, I would give you living water, water that will never run dry. It will actually build up a spring of water inside of you that will lead to eternal life." She was like, "Well, that sounds pretty good. I would love to not have to come and draw water from the well anymore. How do I get this water?" And Jesus said to her, "Well, why don't you go get your husband and come back and then we'll talk about that." And she said, "Well, no, I don't have a husband." Jesus looked at her and said, You're right. You're telling the truth in what you say. You don't have a husband. In fact, you've had 5. And the man that you're with right now is not even your husband." Well, she was kind of taken aback by that. Not sure what to say. She brought up an age-old debate. She said, "Well, you Jewish people, you say that God should be worshipped in Jerusalem. But us Samaritans, we say that he should be worshipped here on this mountain. What do you say, Mr. Prophet?" And Jesus looked at her and said, "There's coming a time when people won't worship God either on this mountain or in Jerusalem. In fact, they'll worship him in spirit and truth. That's what God cares about more." And she said, "Well, I know there's coming a person called the Messiah, and he's going to explain everything to us." Jesus looked at her and he said, "I am he." At that, the woman dropped her bucket and took off running for the town, just as the disciples were coming out. And they were a little confused why Jesus had been talking to this woman, but they didn't want to say anything. They didn't, want to look silly in front of him. And they got to Jesus and they said, "Teacher, you need to eat something. You haven't had anything to eat today. We've been walking. It's hot." And Jesus said, "No, I have food that you know nothing about." While they were having this conversation, the woman went into the town and she started telling everyone, "There's a man out there who knew everything about me. Could this be the Messiah? You need to come and see." And she started running through the streets and spreading the message. Jesus continued the conversation with his disciples and said, "There's a great harvest coming. Look, even now, here it comes." As he said that, many people from the town started to come out to hear what he had to say. And they begged him to stay with them for a couple of days. And so Jesus did with his disciples, stayed there and taught the people. And in those couple of days, many people started to believe that he was the Messiah.